Been a while since I've had a commission come my way, but once again, we have Ghast hitting me up for a new D&D character Speedpaint. I've done a gnomish rogue, a dwarven cleric, an elven warlock, and a bugbear swashbuckler for him so far. Now, how about something a little more complex? You see, his latest campaign involves multiple timelines, resulting in a gimmick in which player character deaths result in being able to replace them with an alternate timeline of that character, with mostly the same history and the same starting stats, but their story must branch in a way that alters their class. Any experienced D&D player can tell you that results in some pretty limited options for functional characters if you have to use the same stats. But I believe Ghast has made something wonderful here. Virgil is a chthonic tiefling living in the city of Ribcage, situated on a demiplane hovering precariously between Avernus and the material plane. For the uninitiated in D&D lore, Avernus is the uppermost layer of the Nine Hells, where the endless blood war between devils and demons rages on. The city's position in a demiplane is precarious, and must be carefully maintained. If they become too chaotic or good, they may fall to the material plane and cause mayhem upon entering that will get them quickly overrun by some foreign military. If they become too evil or lawful, they'll fall to Avernus and be forced into the Blood War. Neither outcome is favorable, so they must continue a moral balancing act to keep their independence and safety. This balancing act is maintained by an interesting business called the Ribcage Pact Providers. Being a neutral demiplane, they get a lot of interplanar visitors from all walks of life, and this tends to result in meeting people with rare, enigmatic, and difficult tasks and goals. As such, the Ribcage Pact Providers keeps records of potential pact-making entities of all kinds, from the divine to the eldritch and beyond, and help to broker deals for them to cater to the needs of warlocks-to-be. The first version of Virgil, as we'll call Virgil Prime, works for them as a warlock of the Chained God, Thorisdun. Quite the vile and nasty bastard, but apparently a favored choice by their staff for being basically the most chaotic evil entity in existence, but more than willing to make pacts dedicated largely to chaos rather than evil. So Virgil signed his pact, and was given a vision of the many planes of the multiverse, the infinite expanse of reality, and how small his little demiplane is in the grandest scheme of it all. But he figures this means, despite its size, this place still must mean enough for Thorisdun to be willing to provide a fraction of his power to maintain it. Whether that's a sliver of good in arguably the most evil god to ever exist, or if he's doing it out of spite against the Nine Hells, we can't be sure. And so Virgil maintains his job at the Ribcage Pact Providers for some time, until being swept up into his party's multiversal adventure, providing the charisma of an experienced businessman who deals with the otherworldly and overpowered beings of the multiverse on a regular basis. Ghast even told me of one occasion where he prevented a long, drawn-out, and likely fatal battle with a beholder obsessed with immortality by offering them a contract with a demi-lich that would provide exactly that. But other versions of Virgil found their tales branching away upon receiving their visions from Thorisdun. To the left of this piece, you can see Virgil the Vigilant, This Virgil saw the same vision, but interpreted it very differently. He saw the vast, infinite expanse of the plains and decided he needed to abandon his desk job and venture forth to witness and protect the plains from invading forces as an oath of the Watcher's paladin. The balance between the planes is always at risk in some manner, and there must always be someone to step in and act as a living wall between them. Vigilant has a thick, shapely mustache, and has had his right horn chopped short in combat, a scar he now bears as evidence of his unwavering conviction to protect the cosmic balance. With his great shield and mace in hand, he is prepared to beat back any invading forces of chaos which may seek to consume the plains and return the world to the elemental chaos or the abyss. And then there's Virgil the Wishful. His vision was different. It started with the plains, but Tharizdun's eldritch madness led to seeing even beyond them. This Virgil witnessed the true nature of his reality. He viewed beyond it, and became acquainted with the players sitting at the table, and a madman with a monolithic tome ruling over them. The resulting madness led to him no longer caring about the fates of his little demiplane, and instead seeking to explore the world and entertain his creators with his absurd actions and adventures. As a College of Lore bard, Virgil the Wishful seeks the most interesting and entertaining tales from across the plains, to retell them not only to himself and the many great people around him, but the players and the DM, seeing his survival and ability to thrive in this world as entirely at the discretion of these enigmatic titans driven by mirth, malice, and chance. On occasion, he'll ignore his fellow adventurers to address the players and DM directly, calling them out for bad RNG and terrible acting, or thanking them for favorable roles and gripping storytelling. Wishful's identifying features are his left horn being cut off in the middle rather than his right, a pair of wide-eyed circular glasses, and a wild, windswept hairstyle befitting his plain-trotting lifestyle and free nature. He's rarely seen without his loot, bearing carvings of the very dice used to determine the fates of this world. When rendering each of them, I was hit with various challenges that really pushed my limits as an artist, in a way that Ghast's commissions tend to do for me. Virgil Prime needed to have both of his hands displayed in clear poses, so admittedly I used photos of my own hands as models, then altered them both slightly. Even had to get out a book to hold in my left hand for that pose. The projection of a beholder made of ink rising from his packed tome was an interesting experiment, stylized but clearly depicting a creature any regular dungeon delver should be familiar with. With Virgil the Vigilant, I had to work with an uncommon and awkward angle and pose. For me, anyway. Not one I've really worked with before. I think I managed it well enough, despite usually being pretty terrible at humanoid faces in general, let alone one at this odd angle. Thankfully, the chain brush I got and then customized a while back became useful again for his chainmail armor. Not often I get to use that brush. For Wishful, his pose is very complex for such a detailed character. He has the most layers in his composition out of all three versions by far, but the results speak for themselves. His lounging pose with crossed ungulate legs which were rather difficult to get right, honestly, was challenging enough. But then I had to have him also holding his lute. I'd never done any instrument before in any of my pieces, but thankfully lutes are probably one of the least complex string instruments to work with. At Ghast's behest, I made sure to have him looking directly at the viewer and waving to them, casually breaking the fourth wall as he will do so often in Ghast's campaign. 3 versions are separated by 2 layers between each. First being a clouded watercolor violet fog between Prime and Vigilant, keeping to his role by the guidance of a dark god, well-meaning but isolated. Between Vigilant and Wishful, reality is cracked and fragmented, the planes visibly at risk. And on the other side, a madman who cares not for the fate of them, who will only become relevant should Vigilant fail in his task and fall in battle. Within the fragments, the elemental chaos consumes the aspects of alignment and threatens to make it null and void. A threat all 3 should seek to prevent. Although it's debatable whether Wishful would do so out of a sense of duty, or simply because it's too grand an adventure to pass up. Here we see the many potential faces of a man living on the edge of oblivion, making the best of it by any means necessary, and about to watch his whole reality, even his own existence, fracture. I can't wait to hear more of Ghast's retelling of this character's adventures, and I'm proud to have been given the opportunity to depict this magnificent and malleable man for him. This is the Envoy of Kairos, signing out. Thanks for sticking around to watch my creative process. I hope to see you all again soon for another Speedpaint, or some gameplay, or maybe more of my Mesopus region project. Now, what to Speedpaint next? So many possibilities in all the realms, so little time.